Hi, I'm Nancy Reynolds, Stampin' with Nutsy. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, up in the Pacific Northwest. And I am so glad to be part of the group putting together this bundle focus program. We are using the Heart and Home Designer Series paper today. Here's what we've got. They're all beautiful, and I've used a lot of my paper up, but I'm going to use this. We're going to have a monochrome card featuring Misty Moonlight and Night of Navy, which to me Night of Navy looks like stamped off once, looks like Misty Moonlight. So that's why we're using that. Here's our stamp set. We're going to use the bundle Blessings of Home. I'm using the sentiments, you are a real blessing to everyone around you, on the outside or the front, and then thank you for inspiring me on the inside. And I'm using 2 dies for our embellishment. I have got Misty Moonlight paper, and I'm cutting it in like a hot dog. I'm cutting it in half at 4 1/4, scoring it 5 1/2, and folding it so we have a hot dog shape. You'll see I've already started on this one. I like to do it with a full sheet of paper. So I would go in and I would score it 5 1/2 and cut it at 4 1/4, so I have 2 card bases, which I did. I have the one that I completed to show you and the one that we're going to make today. So again, the card base size is 11 by 4 1/4 inches, or 29.7 by 10.5 centimeters. Then we've got layer 1, which is this paper, Designer Series paper. It's 4 by 5 1/4 inches, or 10 by 14.4 centimeters. I cut 2 of those that size, one for the front and one for the back, for the inside, not the back, sorry. I used the wood grain on both sides of this first card, and on the second card, I'm going to use the Designer Series paper on the inside, and I've already glued that down. I have chosen to use the back of a different design of paper, and this is going to be our layer 1. So let's put that down. For me, the fewer moving pieces laying around, the better, because I get a little messy. And when I'm a little bit messy, I tend to misplace things, which are usually right in front of my nose. But that's me. Maybe that's why my best friend just called me Nutsy for all these years. Hence the name, Stampin' with Nutsy. So here we are. I'm going to move that over to the side just a little bit. We've got our background paper on both the front and the inside of the card. And you might notice we've got several layers. So this is layer 1. Layer 2 is a piece of Night of Navy, and it is 2 1/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, or that's 5 by 14.4 centimeters. Layer 3 is the Designer Series paper, and I'll put that right on. I just thought that the Night of Navy set off the paper, made it kind of pop. It is 2 1/8 inches by 5 1/8 inch, or 4.6 by 14 centimeters. Layer 4 is just this cute little layer. We have a square, so this is going to go here. The square will go on top of it with dimensionals. And so layer 4 is the Night of Navy, 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 square, or 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. Layer 5 is the Designer Series paper, which is 2 1/8 by 2 1/8 square, or 4.6 centimeters by 4.6 centimeters. So we are just going to put those together right now. Not going to put them on the card quite yet. So let me get my seal out. Oh, I wanted to share this with you. Normally I would start with a clean grid paper sheet, but I had stamped out the little things you do make such a big difference, and I wanted to share that with you. I just thought that was kind of a cool sentiment. Okay, here we are. We're just going to center that. If you center the two sides and the top, the bottom's going to take care of itself because we cut it that way. And here's our little square. This set came with, it was a suite, a very large suite, so I'm glad we broke it down into bundles. But it came with this denim ribbon. And I really like that. So what I tend to do, looks a little darker on this side, so I'm going to use that, is to put my ribbon on. I really like just to put a little seal on the edges, add my ribbon, hook it on, adhere it on the other side, and then take my ribbon scissors. Now you want to keep a set of snips aside for your ribbon because paper dulls blades. So I put a little of my very, very favorite ribbon of all time, the silver mesh ribbon, on it to let me know that this is the one I'm going to use for ribbon, not the one I'm going to use for paper. And now that we've got that on, we can put this part, we'll just seal it top to bottom. And I cut this a little different than the other one. I actually wanted it to meet, pretty much, to be top to bottom. There we are. To match my layer number 1. On this one, I cut it a little bit smaller, which was also pretty. You do what you like best. That's my advice. Now for a bow, because I'm not the best bow tire in the world, so I bought this little bow jig. It's easy to make. It's a piece of wood with holes cut in it. Very simple. And I am going to make our bow. So you can use anything that's 2 stationary pieces. Wrap it around. It goes under in the back and over through the front of your bow. And then I usually just snip it here and tie a knot. Some people use forks. I've seen other little gadgets that you could use. I bought this from another demonstrator, but it really would be easy to make. I think I was being lazy. I am just going to take and snip those ends shorter, get a nice little miter on them, and take a glue dot with my Take Your Pick tool. I'm going to put it under the middle of the ribbon and scrunch a little bit. So it almost looks like it's a real bow. I'm tricky that way. Glue dot on the back of it and putting it down. And then you can adjust your edges. I will say that this denim ribbon does fray, so you'll want to be a little careful with it. Now, we've got this one done, and I am going to build up my focal point before, I'm going to cover the other one. I'm going to build that up before we finish up our card. So, I've got just some strips of Designer Series paper that were on my cutoffs. This is our piece for the inside, and it's 3 3/4 by 5 or 9.5 by 13.5 centimeters. I already cut out my leaves. However, I didn't poke out. That one had a couple of little, what are they called, chads? Those little pieces that are inside that you cut out. I cut 2 of the oval circles, the double punch. I just did the large one. And I thought that I would try to stamp this straight onto the already cut out piece. I probably should be using my Stamparatus. Let's see. How's this? That looks good. So let's see what I can do here. Without getting my head over it, let's see if we can do this. It's off a tiny bit, but I think that'll do. Oh, as long as we're stamping, we may as well stamp our sentiment onto our card, our inside. Thank you for inspiring me. This is why I have all of these little stamps all over, as I just like to find out, making sure how it's going to look. There we are. Set that aside, close up the ink before I put my hand in it. Always a good idea if you ask me. Setting this aside for now. I'm just going to use my Tombow glue, my multi-purpose glue. I keep a little T-pin in it because I find sometimes it gets just a little bit icky at the end. Stuck. Whoop, that's going to be way too much. I just want little dabs, and I don't need it in a lot of places. Just little dots. And if you notice, I put this right here, so this is going to go about there. Hold it for just a second here. So go here. Let's get a little glue on the second piece of leaves, the little branch. And I think it's nice to have some leaves that are free-flowing. You could always use the adhesive sheet if you wanted to put these on. Now, as I looked at this when it was done, I thought, oh, what is it missing? It's missing bling. So I decided to fix that with my Wink of Stella, the clear glitter brush. A lot of it will be hidden by our sentiment. But this makes, when I put this on, of course I did it after I put it down, which is always the harder way to do it, when I had the sentiment glued on it. I'm going to just put this over here anyway, even though it's covered up, because I do like glitter. It's one of my favorite things. Okay, here we are. We need some dimensionals. I don't know about you, but I always get excited when I can finish up a package of dimensionals when I got all my edges done. So there's one. And I like to take, it's so weird, but I like to take my first one out of the middle and work from there for the new card of dimensionals. So here we are. We're just going to put this down. We have our focal point done. I'm also going to put dimensionals on this. Partly because it's going on as a layer over a layer. Let's see. Probably could have just glued this side instead of use dimensionals. But it looks fine this way. So then just kind of in the middle. Maybe a little bit more towards the top, since I've got the ribbon going on. There we are. Our front of our card is almost done. We'll do the embellishments in a moment because I wanted to show you a tip. Here's our inside. It's going to go over the top of this one, and I wanted to see some of the pattern. So that's why I did that. Since we used the printed side, the one with the pattern of the designer series paper, I'm going to use the wood grain on the bottom. Just for a little accent. And as long as you're cutting off these little pieces, I think it's nice to be able to use them. You know, we don't want to waste anything. We paid for it. So here we go. Check the back. Trim off any that's extra, not using our ribbon scissors. Very important. And I just use the back as my guide to cut down. The other side's fine. Put on our, oh, I'm sorry for that. I'm babysitting my daughter's dog, my grandpuppy. And huskies can be a little noisy. So here we are. We'll put this down. We've got our card almost done. Needs a little more bling. On the card I've made first, I had my iridescent gems out, right? And my iridescent jewels, and I decided to try coloring them. They've got a pinkish tone to them, so I didn't like it as well. So I got out my rhinestone basic jewels and thought we would color with our blends. Oh, I think I want the brush tip end. And I'm going to do the medium size. And all you need to do is they color beautifully. I give it a moment to dry. And then I use my take your pick tool to pick it up. And I thought, since for balance, I thought this corner could handle all three of the gems. And here's the third one. And there's our card. The one other thing I did, we've got a pretty outside, we have a pretty inside. It's only reasonable that we have a pretty envelope. So I just took this other piece of designer series paper, again, the cutoff from one of the pieces, and I'm going to put it on the outside front. And I am going to make sure that I've got plenty of glue on it. There we are, because we do not want this coming apart or jamming up any machinery at the post office. They would not be happy with us. Looks like I overdid that one corner. So there we are. Here's our card. I hope you enjoyed it. I will put the measurements in the description of the video when I upload it to YouTube. And I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. Happy crafting.